Hi everyone, I'm Akshay, and today I'm going to give you a walkthrough of Haystack. To begin with, if you navigate to haystackeditor.com/review, this is the page you're going to end up on. Now, I already pre-filled this field in, but you can create an arbitrary review of any pull requests. Just make sure to put in the entire GitHub URL. We also seeded a list of demo pull requests for you. So even if you don't want to authenticate or just don't feel like, waiting for any arbitrary pull request to be pulled up, you can actually click on any of these demos to get sort of a pre-existing walkthrough. Today, we're going to be looking at OLlama, the OLlama pull request. And so if you navigate to OLlama, this is exactly what you're going to see. Right here, we have the pull request summary and the pull request title, pretty standard stuff. But you'll actually see we also have the sections area. And so what sections are in Haystack is Haystack organizes the changes in a pull request in accordance with what the changes are kind of set out to achieve. So you can think about things like whether they're front-end changes, back-end changes. In addition to that, whether the changes are plumbing or wiring, that's just pretty simple. Follow-up changes, test changes, etc. And in this way, we kind of separate the meat and potatoes, which you probably want to review, from just the plumbing, follow-on stuff that you can eyeball, from the tests that you might actually want to look at first, but they're kind of put towards the end for you to look at last if you want, like how normally people want to. And another cool thing about Haystack is we actually we perform a walkthrough of the pull request with you. So you'll actually see a lot of information generated about the pull request that gives you context about the pull request to make your code reviews easier. Here we have like kind of the bog standard AI generated summary, but if I navigate to the section itself, you can kind of see how it gives you context about what the section is changing, the code that kind of existed before. In addition to that, we kind of walk you through the changes. So you can see here, it's kind of like a compass almost, that kind of walks you through the changes and tells you how do all these changes kind of fit into this narrative of the section. So let's look at an example just really quick, because I don't have a lot of time. So in this case, we have this tensor that was changed, this tensor struct that was added, that has a name, a type, and a shape. And so we see here in the second change, actually, that we're using this tensor and adding it as a field called tensors to this show response struct that already existed in the code base. And the natural question is, okay, how is this new field used? So Haystack gives us this data flow that we can access that actually gives us a really cool bird's eye view as to how it's used throughout the pull request. So here we're seeing it using get model data, where this is actually how the data is populated in this return statement. Here we're seeing that we're directly populating the data using this variable. We don't know what this variable is, called tensor data. Here we're using the response.tensors to actually kind of do the crux of the pull request, which is to give this output for the user to look at. I think this is a CLI, so to look at in their CLI, et cetera, et cetera. So this gives you an excellent bird's eye view. If we want to look at a specific location, obviously we can do that. And so here we see we actually modified, the return statement to return this tensors field. And so you might ask, who's consuming that new return data? Well, we can click on get model data to view the callers. And if we, I don't know why I went on the second one, but you can actually see here that KV data, first field, tensors, which is the new return statement, is being consumed here. So we can kind of see the direct data flow relationship. And we can see here that not all calls consume it, like this guy just discards it. But if we go over here, once again, we get into the change. So we see this KV data tensors, and we see that's calling get model data. And we can actually see here that tensors is being used to create this tensor data variable. We're populating it with, again, the data itself. And finally, we can see that it loops all the way back to that tensors field we added. We're actually populating that field with this tensor data. We actually saw that earlier in the data flow. We're populating it with that whole sort of chain of logic that we just went through. So in this way, Haystack kind of shows you how all these like unorganized changes, how they kind of all work together to produce the logic that the author is intending to achieve. And that way you don't have to reverse engineer